very happy Saturday. So approaching weekend. I hope you got my message that I was going to start a little late. So I hope I did not keep you waiting. So let me tell you about today's topics, what we are going to do today. We are going to continue with a very important topic in your web programming in the form of another technique, page navigation, another technique of a page navigation server pull. Then you already have an idea about Servlet Life Cycle, but there are two important facts which are missing. One is Servlet configuration, config and executor framework, thread handling concurrency. So I'll tell you about that. It is mainly, it's a theoretical topic, but of course, important for you to understand. And this is this is very, again, interesting topic. Then there is config versus context and something like web application listener. And if we manage to finish this, then I'll give you the overview or what to expect in a JSP. So before I start with a revision or anything else, has everyone gone through the customer part of the CMS, at least customer, content management system? The customer part is fully clear, because that involved a lot of techniques such as page navigation, session tracking, servlet, JDBC, DAO layer integration and all that. Has anyone attempted the admin part? Admin section completed also. Very good, Kunal. Okay, so have you at least you have started? Very, very good. Excellent, guys. So give it a try over the weekend. And if you get stuck into any specific problem, you can always write to me or you can share your screen or whatever. I mean, I can help you. So let's not waste time. Let's start with the revision. Here, we are revising page navigation. So, page navigation has two scenarios, rather two techniques, client pull and a server pull. What is the main difference between the two? What is the main difference between client pull navigation versus server pull? In client pull, yes. In client pull, you're navigating the client to the next page in the new request coming all the way from the client browser, which definitely involves a round trip delay. Whereas in the server pull, as you will see today, first topic in the morning, you are going to stretch or dispatch the same request to visit multiple pages. For example, you create something called a chain of resources. So S1, suppose I talk about three servlets, S1, S2, S3. So S1 servlet will do the partial processing of the request, dispatch the same request. I'm not saying any redirection or anything. Same request will be dispatched to S2. S2 can do partial processing. And finally, what is the job of the last page in the chain? Mainly to generate the dynamic response. So which page in the chain of request dispatching can generate the dynamic response? Any intermediate pages or only the last page in the chain? Answer is only the last page in the chain. You know this. So that is what is the main difference. And you have seen, you tell me, which is the method? What is the method you have, we have used for client pull to, as in redirect scenario? Which method have you used? Which interfaces, which method? Response dot, okay, you did not say response. It's a HTTP servlet response, send redirect, exactly. So when you say response dot send redirect, will web container, continue to the next page, or will it immediately send the temporary redirect response? Answer is it will send the temporary redirect response, and then the client browser generates the new request to which has the URL location of the next page. Everyone knows that. So now I told you the popular question is redirect versus forward, or in general, client pull versus server pull. So when we replace, yesterday we had started, I'll revise that, of course, client pull by server pull. So instead of navigating the client, in case of successful navigation, successful authentication, I meant, from login to topics using redirect, we have replaced it by forward. So what we are discussing is a request dispatching technique. And here let's first talk about the API. Anyone wants to tell me? If I want to use the server pull, you have the object, you have the interface by the name RequestDispatcher. Anyone wants to tell me the first step? What is the first step in request dispatching? Get the RequestDispatcher object, which represents the wrapper to the next resource. So let me tell you, suppose login, the mapping was /authenticate, I guess. And URL pattern of topic servlet was, let's say, /topics. So anyone wants to start? I'll say the left hand side. So RequestDispatcher is an interface, implementation class in Catalina jar, server specific jars. So RequestDispatcher RD is equal to, give me the RHS. This is still a revision. How do I get that RequestDispatcher object? I'm talking about this current requirement, not response. Response is wrong. It is from the request Ragini. So it is not response.get request dispatcher. It is request.get request dispatcher, RD for request dispatcher. But there is an argument. It is not without argument. Is it without argument? Of course not. So anyone wants to tell me what should be the argument here? Nothing but the path, which is the URL pattern, or whatever the path of the next resource. So which is the next resource you want to chain? A servlet. So what are we looking at here? Servlet dispatch. I mean, client dispatch from one servlet to another servlet. So should it be /topics or should it be topics? Only topics will suffice. Okay. So this is it. So this is the first step done. So here you are having a request dispatcher object which represents, which wraps the next page. So step 1 is done. What is the next step, which is easy one? So yeah, you tell me. So I told you there are two scenarios. One is forward, one is include. So yeah, so we have to call a method. Don't say just forward, rd.forward, RequestDispatcher.forward. And are we forwarding the client with the same request, same response, or the next request, next response? Answer is same request and same response. Okay. So this is where we had stopped yesterday. This is what we had talked about yesterday. That is, so I have not yet told you the internals. I'll talk about the internals shortly. So suppose if I call, okay, let me say this. So here, if I call this as RQ1, suppose request 1 is what? I'm counting it that way after the form submission. So suppose this is RQ1, which was sent for, or which was mapped to /authenticate. So in this technique, when you reach topic servlet, what will you call? Which request will reach topic servlet? Question is, options are RQ1 or RQ2. Same or next. RQ1 is the very right answer. So now the next question. What will be the minimum scope of attributes to be shared across pages in client pool? First question. And the same question, these are the important, interesting questions, and that will be in the server pool. So don't answer. Let me explain the question. Suppose you got a lot of dynamic web pages in your website. Yesterday we have solved one. So I want to share the data. But these pages, I'm using the request, I'm using suppose client pull technique. It could be client pull 1, clicking on a button, clicking on a link, or it could be a redirect scenario. Anyone wants to tell me what should be the minimum scope I should keep it for client pull? 100% session scope. Why you are saying session scope? Because session comprises of multiple requests coming from the same client. So if you have seen it, last 2 days we are working in session. So we had saved the DAO instances, user details all under the session scope, and I could access it till the last page in the logout, right? So that was the thing. So that is already said, that is given. But if I'm saying, okay, why this? Because this consists of multiple requests. Session consists of multiple requests coming from the same client. But if I ask you the same question, okay, when I say client pull, I'm talking about mainly, you can say CP1, that is, clicking on a button, or I can say redirect, anything. But if I'm working on this in the same request, for example, in server pool, do you need to keep the attributes under the larger scope as session, or can I use the narrower scope? Which is the minimum scope in short? Yes, narrow scope. Which is the narrower than session? Request scope. So keep it light and easy. Client pool, anytime you have a client pool, you have to use the session scope. If you want to have if you're connecting two pages using, let's say, server pool, for example, request dispatching, request scope is sufficient. And which are the methods which you have to use to add the attribute or to remove the attribute or to get the attribute? Do you have to learn any differently? Great news is you don't. You have the same API. In case of client pool, which were the methods we were calling? Session.setAttribute, session.getAttribute, session.getAttribute names, session.removeAttribute, etc. So in server pool, in server pool, which are the methods you expect to call? Same. But what will be the invoker object? Will it be session or will it be request? Of course, it will be request. And thankfully, J2E is all about easy APIs. Concept is interesting, but APIs are more than easy. So you will just end up calling request.setAttribute, request.getAttribute, and likewise. So which methods will end up using? Same API. These are called as common block methods. Set attribute, get attribute, get attribute names. And then you have something like remove attribute. So the same APIs continue to work. Understanding the important part of scopes. So request scope for server pool and the session scope for client pool. Clear or not clear? So it is always best to see it in a summary diagram. Yeah. So this is one of the important. Currently, I'm not sharing it. I'm just discussing it completely. So read along with me. So what is the meaning of attribute? It is nothing but a server-side object. Yesterday, I had asked some question in between. Instead of talking in attribute, instead of talking in parameter, people were talking in attribute. So guys, don't read the rest of the slide. Hear what I'm saying. You have seen request parameter. Today you are going to see init parameter, context parameters and all. So in general, when I say parameter, what is it? String comma string or string comma object. Means parameter has a name and a value. So what will be the data types? String comma string for a parameter I'm saying, or string comma object. Answer. Let me see your answer. Guys, such a wrong answer. Parameter, request parameter. When you say request.get parameter, in goes the string parameter name, out comes the string value. So why you are saying string comma object? Wrong. So parameters are always string name, string value. Did I ask you about attributes? I'm asking about parameters. Hear me. And parameters are typically read-only. Okay. So any read-only data type, will it be inherently thread safe or inherently thread unsafe? Read-only data, what it will be? Of course, thread safe. Okay. So you don't have to access any synchronized blocks, or while accessing, you don't require any synchronization. Okay. Now I'm talking about attributes. So attributes are actual Java objects which reside in the server-side heap. So server-side objects, basically, they have name and a value. But what is the data type now? String comma string, S comma S or S comma O. For attribute, I'm saying. Here the answer is string comma object. And most importantly, can objects be added? Can these attributes be added under different scope? 100% yes. So like how in core Java we have private, default, protected, public, always answer in ascending manner. Which are the 4 different scopes in web programming? You got page, request, session, or application. 4 differing scopes. So who are going to create these attributes, typically a servlet programmer, and later after servlets, I'm going to start with JSPs or a JSP programmer. So which are the two scopes I want you to focus upon are today, I mean initially, request and session. The page scope I'll bring in with JSPs. I don't have a page scope here in a servlet explicitly. So page scope will be discussed in JSP and context scope later. So now focus. See the three columns. What are these three columns? Invoker API, the methods, and the invoker object, the methods, and the meaning significance. So now read this carefully. If I'm working in client pool, which is the invoker object you'll choose? Already I told you. This is just a summary. This is just a revision. Yes, please. Which invoker object you'll use? Of course, session. So, which are the methods which are common block methods, common APIs? Set attribute, get attribute, remove attribute, get attribute names. All same. Now tell me, if you say session.set attribute, what will be the scope of such an attribute? Answer is right here. Answer is current session. Means what? One single copy of that attribute or that object will be shared across all dynamic web pages from the same web application for the same client. So let me ask you. Yesterday we had created user details as the session scope attribute. How? Session.set attribute. So if I have, I'll repeat my question. So focus. We had created the session scope attribute, let's say user details. You got that? So I'm just asking you, if I have got 10 clients sending 5 requests each, how many copies of session scope attribute, how many copies of that user details will be created? 1, 5, 10 or 50? Of course 10. Are you understanding? That is the meaning of, I mean, same client. So everyone understands that. You got that? Now, which is the narrower scope? As you go down the y-axis, the scope is increasing. So if you are, we are going to start the discussion. This was just a recap. So if I say I'm working in server pool, where I'm stretching the same request, one request coming from the client to visit multiple pages. So do I require the larger scope, wider scope as a session? You know, we don't. So which is the narrower scope than the session? Request scope. So the API is in servlet request. So if I say request.set attribute, what will be the scope of such an attribute? Current request, current session, or current application? RSA, current request only. And when will GSID means garbage collected? When will such a request scope attribute be garbage collected? After the corresponding response is rendered. So the moment your request response flow is over, will the request scope attribute which you created in the earlier request, will it be visible? Will it be accessible in the next request? It's a Boolean question. Of course not. Are you understanding? So this is a very good slide to tell you in a summary manner which scopes. And when I take you to JSP, I'll be adding one more invoker object. There's something called as page context. And when you say page context or set attribute, you are storing an attribute in the current page, something like your private. So today we don't require that. So today let us focus on request.set attribute, request.get attribute, and complete your server pool. So this was just a background. Please open this thing, STS ID, and I'm going to continue with the server pool. So day 5.2 was where we started, but I just want to maintain it day wise. So copy day 5.2 in today's first one, day 6.1. So, you know, when I give you that this is what you should revise and all that, you will do it properly. So copy paste, please. Immediately change context root, context path. Right click on day 6.1, properties. Third one, web project settings, and change it to 6.1. Can context root have a different value than the web project name? Yes, but as a norm, we are keeping it same. Okay. Okay, so open this and let's test it. So everyone knows the welcome page is the login form. Login form is submitted to the authenticate URL using the method equal to post. So open login servlet and you can see that it is matching with the URL pattern and already loaded on startup. That means class loading, instantiation, and init method is all called. So directly come to your do post. Initial part is good old. Now this is the third day we are talking about it. So all these things I'm skipping. Directly come to the successful login branch as in else branch. So now tell me, in case of successful login, we are definitely navigating the client from authentication page to the topic page, but in the same request using server pull or in the next request using client pull. Answer is we are doing it in the same request using the server pull. So just now I revised, server pull is nothing but request dispatching, request chaining technique. The first step is create the request dispatcher object, request.get request dispatcher, and the URL path of the next resource. So what is this request dispatcher object holding or encapsulating or representing? The path, I mean the next resource, which is your topic servlet. And there are two methods. Which are the two methods of request dispatcher? One is in front of you, one is forward, and which is the next scenario we are going to discuss is include. So focus on forward. Let me make an important statement. In all standard MVC implementations, when I reach there, I'll talk more about it. MVC is a design pattern, industry grade design pattern, model view controller for the separation of concerns. Okay, so MVC is a pattern implemented by so many frameworks. Which ones? Your Angular, your this thing, Spring MVC, Struts MVC. You have Apache Camel, this thing, MVC, JSF. I mean, Java, not JavaScript, Java server faces. All these are MVC implementation frameworks. Now the important statement. In all these frameworks, I mean, I'm not talking in Angular. Angular is not a Java framework. It's a JavaScript framework. So in all the other frameworks, Java frameworks, for example, everywhere your all MVC implementers, framework developers use request dispatchers forward scenario. So I'm not showing you all MVCs, you know that impossible. I'm going to show you Spring MVC. So in Spring MVC, the Spring MVC framework, there's something called as dispatcher servlet, Spring supplied servlet. We'll use what? Request dispatcher forward technique, as in server pull, forward scenario, to navigate the client from something called as controller to the view layer. In simple words, important stuff, understand it properly. Okay, so this is where I've called rd.forward. And just to confirm whether the control of execution, is it coming back to this page at all, I'm put some SOP. So before I start doing anything, listen to the question. Now your time to participate, I have already explained. So I have these user details, which are validated user details, and I want to access it on the next page. Okay, so start with me. Here, pw.print, login successful, and here mention it as from login page. So keep doing. I am writing very small stuff. I'm not developing any case study today. Today is little more conceptual day. Yesterday we spent a lot of time in hands-on. So today I have to balance by some concepts. So the question, but interesting ones, don't worry. So will this line or will this response appear on the client browser? It's a yes or no question. Will it appear on the client side browser? Answer is no. Why? Because this is a common part between forward and redirect. What we were saying in redirect, this is also the same. So just do it. Right now we'll not add flush. We'll just test this part and then we'll add flush and we'll observe. So now, okay, so this you have added. Now tell me, let me see this. which is the scope? Which scope to choose? You in server pull technique to save or to store user details. You know the answer. Which scope I should choose? Okay, I'll say this. Which minimum scope? Because maximum widest scope in Java web programming is application, entire web application. Yes, please. Which minimum scope? Look at my spellings. Choose. Everyone knows the answer. It is the request scope. So, which is the method? Method is the same. So here, add user details under the request scope. Anyone wants to write the next line? Give me the next line. You should be able to do it. Request dot. Great part is same API. Read this. Stores an attribute in this request. In the current request, attributes are reset between the requests. What do they mean by that? If you have added an attribute in RQ1, will it be available in RQ2? Say yes, no. I said, if you have added the attribute in RQ1 request 1, will it be available, visible, accessible in RQ2? No. And they give you everything. All you have to read is Java docs. This method is often used in conjunction with RequestDispatcher. So request scope, server pull, request dispatching, session scope attribute, client pull, redirect, and CP1. Keep it simple. So set attribute. Attribute name can be anything. So suppose if I say user details. Okay. Don't uppercase, lowercase it. Typically not required. User details. And here, what should I add is it's an attribute. I can add any object reference. And user is an object. So does the job. When will such a request scope attribute be marked for garbage collection? When the corresponding response is sent. Done this much? So we have added this. And now you have to understand the internals. And how am I going to prove the internals? As usual with the network tab, inspect option. So what will web container do when you say rd.forward? So I'm giving you in writing, web container suspends execution of the current page. Current page means current method. Which method it was executing? Do post. Everyone with me? What is the next step it does? It discards. Discards means what? Clears. Discards print writer's buffer. So tell me, the moment it is going to discard the print writer buffer, will this ever appear in the response? Of course not. And you already know, if you trouble the web container by flushing out, by committing the response, which exception you will get? Illegal state. Okay, we'll see that in a short while. So discards the print writer buffer. So this is common between redirect and a forward. But now, is it going to send any temporary redirect response to the client? Yes or no? Answer is absolutely no. This is a server-side navigation. So it has suspended the execution. So now the web container invokes. What it will invoke? What it will invoke is, now see this. There is an interesting thing. Which is the method you have which has started here? Do post. So it will invoke the do get or do post of the which page of the topic servlet. Answer is do post is forwarded to do post and do get is forwarded to do post. Do get. So web container will invoke which method? Because we have overridden here do post, this is a change. Do post method of the what? Of the next page of that resource of the topics page. I'll send you this comments. First focus on understanding this. Oh. Okay. So see the sequence. It will pause the execution. Suspend means it has not stopped. It has paused, suspend, pause button. Pauses the execution of the current method, discards empty print writer buffer, and then it will invoke the do post method of this particular servlet. Got this? So where the control will go? the control will go to the topics page now. Will go there. Now, after its execution is over, whose execution is over? Do post method of this thing. Topics page is over. After its execution is over, guys, it is just a method call. So method call returns. So control comes back. Execution control comes back to which one? To your login page. Definitely. You are going to see it. You are going to see this SOP. The control came back. But which page between login servlet and the topics page? Which one can actually generate the dynamic response? Which one can generate the dynamic response and send it to the client? Login page or topics page? I've just created 2-page ka chain, topics page, but only the last page in the chain, which is which one? In this case, topics page. Topics page can generate the response, the dynamic response. And here I already said, if you're going to see this, you're going to confirm it definitely. Only the last page in the chain can generate the dynamic response. This page, the original page, cannot. So tell me, what is your expectation? Are you going to see this on the server side console? Control of execution came back to login. Will this appear on the server side console? Of course, yes. I'm not put pw.println. This is all just to test the flow. Okay. So this is about first one. I'll send you this so that you will get the comments if you want. D6.1 src main Java pages login servlet. Okay. So now let's talk about your this thing. What is it called? Topic servlet. The next one, topic servlet. Let's talk about it. So in this case, if I run it as it is, what will happen? Clue is here. Tell me, will you get the response or will you get any error code? Exception is wrong. Error code. Which error code? I already got the answer. HTTP 405. It will tell you that whatever post method is not supported by this URL. Because do post gets forwarded to do post. If it was sent, when it was sent redirect, the response was sent all the way to the client browser, and client browser was sending a new request with get. Here, no new request. Do get forwarded to do get. Do post gets forwarded to do post. So which is the first change you'll have to do? Change this to do post. You got it? Okay, let us say this way. This is my chance. I'll say this. Let me do get. So, because we are coming to the end of servlets topic. We have to start with JSP Java Beans, the next topic, and then Hibernate, and then Spring. So this is my one of the last chances. I'm asking you a question. Can you override multiple do star methods in a given servlet? I mean, can I override both do get as well as do post in any particular servlet? It's a Boolean question, yes or no? 100% yes. So that is my chance. Okay. So if I write only do get, you'll get 405. So what you do is, this is, what is this? End of this method. This is, I think, end of try. Okay. So here, override do post. Okay. So you don't have to type it out. If you want, you can type it out. Otherwise, you simply say override implement methods and choose do post. Easy. So we have overridden the do post, and here just add a SOP. Guys, I'm telling you to trace the flow to understand the internals. So here I'm saying in do post of get class. Okay, so tracing it. Now can do post call the do get, or can do get call the do post? Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely. So here I'm saying my real business logic, or whatever that response generation logic, is in do get. So can I call this? 100% yes. So if you see in exam or anything, anywhere in the code, you should know that it is legal. So which one web container will call upon forward? Do get or do post? Do post. And can do post call our do get? Yes, of course. So the control comes here. How do you confirm? SOP. Just press the whole thing. Later I'll show you logger and all that. So currently it is fine in the do get. Okay, so do get. And rest of the things are, let's check. So here, now tell me, is this going to appear? Will this be added in the response buffer or will it be discarded? It will be added. It is the last page, right? It is the last page in the chain, 100% yes. Now tell me, do you need the session? Have we added the details in the session scope? Of course not. So get rid of all of that. Okay, clear it. So that else branch, let it be there. So you don't have to do this. We'll this. So now, since it is a request dispatcher, which is your server pull, a retrieve user details, from which scope you are going to retrieve it from? From the request scope or session scope? From the current request scope. Because that same request has been stretched. Current request scope. So here, I'll say the user. And right hand side should come from you. Give me the RHS. Okay, I'll use the same variable name, retrieved user. Yes, RHS you are typing. Of course, request.get attribute, and in goes the attribute name. Okay, so request.get attribute. And as always, my solid suggestion is don't waste your time in spelling mistakes. Copy paste the names. Okay. Otherwise, you lose tremendous amount of time solving errors and all that. And since it is returning you an object, do the downcasting. You got that? And then you can check null or not. Retrieve user details from whatever, from your request. Is this? Otherwise, this is not session tracking. We can say that what field? No cookies. It doesn't depend on the cookies at all. It doesn't go to the client at all. So I'll say request dispatching field, which doesn't happen unless until you got some exception in between and all that. So I think we are done here. Let's check. Yeah. So login successful from topics page, retrieve the user, checking and printing. I'm sending you this page also. Okay. And of course, I'm going to just add one more SOP here, like here, trace it. Add this SOP in login servlet so that, we'll know the whole flow. So this is which method now? Login servlet ka do post. So what is going to be the flow after the form submission? Web container calls the service, public service of login HTTP servlet, calls the protected service, then calls the do post method of our login servlet. When you call forward, as I explained already, it will suspend the execution. It will pause the execution of this method, and then do post will get forwarded to do post. So which method of the next page will be called? Do post. So you'll definitely see in do post of whatever topic servlet. But now I did not want to write the business logic in this. So I'm just calling from do post do get just to confirm few facts with you. And here is the response generation logic. Done? Finished it? Can we test? Added all the SOPs? Okay. So we are going to trace it with the network tab. So let's run this. Let's deploy this on the server side and then attach the inspect tools on the in the client browser. So day 6.1, run on server. Don't say finish. Remove the earlier projects. Remove all. Keep one project at a time and finish. Watch the console as always. and the console should be all error free. In this version, I have not created all those tutorial and topics, so user now looks fine. Now open the inspect option here and look at the network. So don't waste time. The successful login only I'm showing, checking. And when you say here, first observations, there are so many things for you to observe. What is the URL? Is it /authenticate or is it /topics? /authenticate, indicating how many requests have come from the client, one or two. One single request. Okay. Are you able to retrieve the details from the request scope correctly? 100% yes. And now see the thing. So here, if you see this, what is it called? Network or traffic. How many requests actually have been sent? Forget React Dev Tools and all whatever. So only one request. Are you understanding? Are you spotting the difference? Earlier it was authenticate and topics. That is when I say multiple requests. So the session scope and all that, cookies and HTTP session and all that. So as far as client is concerned, how many requests he has sent? Only one single request, submitting to authenticate. That is why URL never changed. What was the requesting method for the form? Post. And this response status code has been sent by which page? Your login page or the topics page? Who has generated the response? Topics page. And you can see the response, login successful from topics page and all. So you can observe. We had said login successful from login page, never appeared. The moment you say forward, the contents are gone. The print writer buffer is all emptied. And see the full trace on the server side. So which is the first method after the form submission? Which is the first method? That service methods I can't print because those are super classes method. You can add a breakpoint though, but anyway, that takes a lot of time. So here, login servlets do post. Do post gets forwarded to which one? Do get or do post? Which method your container called? You can see answer in front of you. Do post. And from do post, as a programmer, we had called the do get, which is where that response content generation was. All those user details were getting sent. And after calling forward, does the control of execution return to the original page? 100% yes. And then the response is sent. So I'll wait here for half a minute. You have the code, you have the output, you have the network traffic and everything. Tell me, are we clear? Are we understanding it? Request dispatchers, forward technique. And in today's help, when you revise, you'll see so many diagrams. So I'll show you that, I'll send you that diagram. Server pull whiteboard, yeah. So let me see whether it's relevant. Okay, it is authentication and category servlet for that bookshop. But anyway, I mean, you can, I hope you'll understand it. I'll send you. So all the details I mentioned in that diagram. Yeah. So request dispatchers forward whiteboard. So you can open that once you receive it. And whatever I have said here, the create request dispatcher object and the stretching of the request and coming back of the response. So the control does come back here and then the response is sent. And the response buffer will only contain the contents of the last page in the chain. And just do a 1-minute job, add the flush method and confirm the exception. So if you just write to the print writer buffer, container will excuse you, container will ignore you. But if you specifically forcefully send the contents, you know what you're going to get is illegal state. Only the error cause, the error message will differ. It will tell you, container will tell you, you cannot call forward after response has been sent. So just confirm. You can see when I touch it, the application gets reloaded. And you saw this. what is one of the triggers for destroy is the reload. This is see on sideline you can confirm so many facts. What are the triggers for the web container to call the destroy method? One is server shutdown and one is reloading of the application, which was triggered by some Java code change. Come back to the and side. You can see back and send the data again. And here, oh, there's this compiler problem. Sorry. I got a compiler. I should have, I did not, I ignored it, my mistake. I never saw the console. So here, if, okay, there is a bracket. I wrote 2 lines, right? So of course, I just went in a hurry. So let it reload, guys. So I'm clearing the console and he's wondering why, I mean. So here, no, something went wrong. It's working with the flush also. Explicit flushing also it is working. Did I compile or did I not? pw.flush, did I change it correctly? It does get, again, changing versions. Let me see before I make a statement. Is it working for you or are you getting an exception? Oh yeah, yes, stupid, dumb. Thanks. Whoever is that? Shraddha. My programming, my logical. I was wondering why it is having such various things. Here, you don't need this at all. My bad. Let it reload properly, reloading the context. I was wondering whether any changes have occurred in between. So this is expected. This is what should happen. So of course, whatever you flush out, whatever you render the response is coming on the client-side console. I mean, client-side browser. But if you check the server-side story, this is what is expected matching the actuals. So again, we are back to illegal state. And only thing which I was saying earlier is error message will differ. That time it was saying cannot call send redirect after the response has been committed. The same reason, same failure for forward. You got this? Yeah, guys, I realized my mistake. Somebody told me. Is it matching? Yeah, are you all getting the same illegal state exception? Okay. So, of course, comment it. And anytime in the lab session, you are trying to understand it, uncomment it, and discuss the whole, understand the whole thing. So, treat this as one of the important topics because I told you, when I take you to Spring MVC, that's your MVC implementation, you will see the Spring controller. The controller will forward the client to the view layer using the same forward scenario. So you should be good, excellent in sendRedirect also, as well as forward scenario also. So this was all about forward. Now let us talk about the other request dispatcher scenario, which is the other method other than forward I've just talked about is include. Okay, so first read about it and then we will proceed. Page navigation, talking about server pull, include scenario. So everything is the same. First step is you have to create a request dispatcher, and instead of calling request rd.forward, request dispatcher forward, we are just going to call the include. So this is nothing but equivalent to your server side include SSI. And the arguments are the same. So what happens here is same things, 90% things are the same. So web container will suspend the execution of the current page, but will it discard the buffer of the print writer, or will it discard the responses which are generated by the first page? Answer is no. So very tiny changes take place. I'll say this again. I said in the forward scenario you just now saw, it is discarding the buffer. So that is the only small change. The buffer is retained. You'll see it in a minute. And what happens is now the control comes to the next page. The next page is, I'm going to make a copy to topics page at this, and then the page is executed. The method is executed, whatever. Do get gets included, do get. Do post includes do post. Okay. So the next resource can be anything. It could be your servlet, it could be JSP, both are dynamic, or it could be your static resource. And these contents are actually included in the response buffer. So which page? So let me talk in servlet 1, servlet 2, S1, S2. If I say in S1, rd.include S2, whose contents will you see? I mean, which all pages can generate the dynamic contents, which will be seen on the client browser? Your choices are S1, S2, both, or neither. Answer is both. S1 plus S2 is a very right answer. So what is it which you cannot do? So be clear with the limitations. What was the limitation of the forward scenario? Could any intermediate pages generate the dynamic response? Never. The contents were ignored. You saw that. But here the limitation is, you know the response packet structure, which has status code, which has headers. So the included page cannot change those status codes or headers. There is a method, set error, set status code, etc. You cannot. If you set header, of course. But if you do it, will container shout? And the answer is generally no. Contents are simply, the changes are simply ignored. So why don't we test it? Okay, before I test it, let me show you. The picture makes it easier. So what we are talking about, request dispatchers include scenario. So suppose form is submitted. This is your HTML form. So let us call it as RQ1, request 1. So the partial processing of the request is done by S1. And now it says request dispatcher RD equal to request.get request dispatcher S2. And then I'm saying, we are going to say rd.include. So what will happen? The page execution will be suspended. Our contents are, what do you say, gone? Of course not. The contents, I mean, print writer buffer is maintained. And then the control goes, web container executes the do get or do post, whatever the matching method here of the next page. The second page also, S1 and S2, can continue to add the contents. And when finally the response is sent, it will definitely have both S1 contents, I mean, contents generated by S1, as well as, this is the main page, as well as the included page. So this is your example of, or other explanation of, dynamic include or server-side include. So let's give it a try. You can stop the server first. When I say stop the server, click on the servers tab and close here. So proper lifecycle hooks will be called. Just make a copy. 6.1 into 6.2. That is the reason, guys, I did not change the whole case study. You can focus on small parts. And the moment you make a copy, change the context root. All we are going to replace is forward by include. Done the copy? Can we continue? Tell me. Tell me. Okay. So say Control Shift W. I mean, don't mix it up in the earlier project. Open, login servlet. Don't look at anything else but the else branch. So here, login successful from login page. Uncomment this and keep it. I mean, I just want to show you. Now, you tell me, change or no change. Okay, before that, I should ask you. I should tell you. We are going to replace request dispatchers forward by include is the given. So tell me, line number 82. I hope you have kept all this. Change or no change? Absolutely no change. We are still in the server pool, talking about extending, chaining the same request to visit multiple resources. Everything is the same. Which line will be changing? Of course, everyone knows it. Simply change forward to include. And of course, here also include. Okay. Now start working on the comment. Suspends the execution of the current page. Yes. Will it discard the print writer buffer? No. It retains. Continues with the print writer buffer. And rest of the part is the same. So web container will invoke. I've written it in do post. So naturally do post. After its execution is over, control comes back to the login page. And this part is here. And here, both of the pages, the main page and the included page in the chain, that is login and topics page, can generate the dynamic response. I'll send you the comment. I'll just check web container suspends, retains the print writer buffer. This, do post, comes back, main page, but I'll say there's no but here. Main page and the included page, that is this thing, can both generate the dynamic contents. So that is your another favorite question, forward versus include. I told you, preparing you for multiple things, exams, interviews, projects, and all that. So control of execution comes over, and just add pw.print, something. Login page, sending some contents, post include. Okay. So, once you see it, you don't have to remember anything. The moment you understand, remembering is not required, right? So here, we'll just check. Earlier, of course, in forward, it wasn't happening. Forward means only the last page in the chain. So tell me your expectation beforehand. Do you expect to see this on the client side browser? It's a yes or no. Yes. Will this cause any illegal state exception? No. Will you see control of execution came back to the login on the server side console? Yes. And will this appear on the client side browser? Last one. Okay. So there is a question mark there. I'm giving you a question mark there. You watch and you observe and you conclude. And the topic servlet, don't touch a word, don't change a word. So question, do you expect to see the included page also adding to the response buffer? Yes. Do you expect to see the retrieved user details from the request? It is a request scope, so yes. Okay, so just I hope you have made the changes. Try, observe and conclude is always the best. Right click, run on server. Next, remove all, finish. Okay. Open. If you want, not much different to see, but in case you are curious. Tell me, any exception? Okay, first get a look at this. So there's only one method, which is, one request. So that part is the same. That's why I said, here, start looking at it. How many requests? One single request. Is the main page able to generate the dynamic contents, the login page? Yes. This was before include or after include? Before include. What will you call this? The included contents, which are generated by the topics page. If you see on the console, has the control of execution come back to the login page? Tell me from your own console. Yes. But are these contents after include, post include, are they getting added in the response buffer or no? Answer is no. Tell me why. Not a difficult question. I'll not ask you difficult questions because since you are freshers, yes, you understood all the story, right? All the remaining things is working as per expected, but the last thing is not coming. Anyone, why? Okay, answer is in the topic servlet. No, no, no. Where's that garbage collection coming from? Nothing. Okay, here is the clue. What will GAVM call at the end of try with resources? Yes, please. Quick question, quick answer. PW.close. So here, where you are actually closing the print writer buffer. And when you say close, after that, after the print writer buffer is closed, how can you keep adding the contents more? You understand me? So only that you have to remove and that's it. So this is what was causing it. So remove that try with resources. You anyway don't require, I mean, you require it, but not in the include scenario. So get rid of it and remove this. Have I done it? Oh, I don't require the bracket here. Is it correct? Print writer, I'm just checking. Print writer, pw.print, yes. So remove that. Don't close the resource. Let the print writer be open. When you say save, you will see. Wait for it to get reloaded. Go to the client-side browser. Test it. And tell me, are you seeing now the included contents after, I mean, post include contents also? Is it making sense? Understanding everything? So which scenario you should polish, you should understand, or you should focus more is the forward scenario. You can use include scenario in some cases, but like I said, the use cases are less of server-side include. Mainly we use in our training. I'm talking about our contents, our training. You will use in the MVC, model view controller, mainly the forward technique. Has everyone got the same results, guys? Can we continue? So this was about server pull, the first topic of today, request dispatching. Now, remaining some of them are theoretical. So here, now I want to show you the detailed part of servlet lifecycle. So 70-80% of the lifecycle you already know, but there are two important pieces missing. So one piece is servlet config, other piece is how the concurrency is handled by the container. So that I'm going to show you. So let me share that diagram with you. So let us cycle. Yeah. So that you'll have, you can open it and we can trace it together. Just download Servlet Life Cycle. I'm opening it anyway here. So this is the completed form of it. Complete Servlet Life Cycle. So you got it? Anyway, if it is getting downloaded or something, you can refer to this. So read these first two statements, which we have made so many times in last 3-4 days. This is the 4th day of Servlet. Let's just read this part, these two parts. Okay, start working, start reading it with me. Who is going to manage the Servlet lifecycle, programmer or web container? You know the answer. It is a callback mechanism. Means what? You as a programmer, you override the lifecycle methods, init, do, star, destroy. Init and destroy only if required. But you know, you have to at least override one of those do, star methods, etc. So, but you have to write the code, initialization logic, shutdown logic, servicing logic, but the method invocation is left to the container. So everyone knows. For this mapping business, for this request mapping business, which mapping I'm talking about? If this is the incoming URL pattern, if this is the incoming request, which will be the servlet map to it? Who is going to manage all that? Web container. So what will web container do? Web container will start with an empty map, specialized subclass of a hash map, and then either by using servlet tags, you remember that servlet, servlet name, servlet class, servlet mapping, etc. Those tags in the web.xml, or if you have not mentioned the tags, web servlet annotation, it will add the entry. So why it uses the hash map? I mean specialized form of the hash map. What does a hash map guarantee? Constant time performance, faster searching. So for the anytime client sends a request, you don't want the container to waste the time in searching for it. The moment you have a constant time performance, search is fast. Okay. So what is the key of such a map and what is the value? You know that from day one. Key is nothing but the URL pattern. Where do you define this URL pattern? Either in the web servlet annotation with the value URL patterns attribute or in web.xml. So suppose it is /hello. And what is the value will it will keep it in the map? Nothing but the fully qualified servlet class name. So who is going to prepare this map? Container, servlet container, web container, anything, web engine they call it, servlet engine, server side JVM, simple. When for every request or at the application deployment time, exactly once. Everyone understood that? Now at the deployment time, when the map is getting prepared, at that time, web container will check, are there any servlets which have to be loaded on the startup? Guys, you know everything. I'm just putting things together. Only two facts you don't know is servlet config and the executor framework. But rest all is known. But I'm just talking about all. So tell me, what is the default value of load on startup? -1. So that is your not specified branch. You don't specify. But if you want, suppose your initialization methods are heavyweight, time consuming. You know, you are establishing database connections, creating DAO instances, later booting that Spring or Hibernate framework, Spring Data JPA, whatever. You don't want the first request of any client to suffer. So we add that load on startup. So now press this branch. If you have added load on startup, will container follow the lazy loading policy or eager loading for a startup, for the servlet, eager loading? So label this as eager loading branch. Okay. So web container will start initialization sequence when? After the first request or right at the deployment time? Everyone knows application, right at the application deployment time. A small break from this discussion. So, but just I have to tell you the weightage of every topic. Guys, understand this life cycle inside out. And in a week's time, when I take you to Spring Framework, there you will, here we are talking about web container managing the servlet life cycle. A week later, we'll be talking about Spring container managing the life cycle of a Spring beans. There will be controller beans, service beans, repository beans, etc. But trust me, the life cycle is the same. Of course, there's an additional interesting part called as dependency injection. But barring that, it is all the same. So understand servlets well. You understand rest of the topics really well. Okay, so coming back to the point. Where will be those servlet classes? Will it be in any folder or a specific J2E compliant folder? Answer is specific folder. I have shown you on the first day, J2E compliant folder structure. WebINF has web.xml, classes and lib. So web container will look at the classes. Locate means we'll find the classes from WebINF classes. So the three verbs you have to remember: locate, load and instantiate. So locates it from which folder? WebINF classes. And the next is class loading. So which is the method it will use for loading our servlet class, which is login servlet, topic servlet, tutorial servlet, whatever, class.forName. And that will use the argument it will use is fully qualified name. How does it know which fully qualified name? It is already sitting in the value in the value of that entry. So class loading is done. Now instantiation will be done using a parameterized constructor or parameterless default constructor. Answer is right here. I mean, you know, I don't have to tell you where we have added any parameterized constructor. You don't. So after this, the servlet class is loaded in the method area, and the singleton instance of that servlet class using the default constructor is created in the heap. Everyone with me? Everyone understanding word by word? Because this is all you know. There's nothing which you don't know. 100% clear so far? Okay, let us proceed. So before I proceed to this part, guys, you don't know. This part I had not told you because it was at the right time. So now suspend this discussion and answer my question. Suppose in core Java, I ask you to write an employee class. I'm asking you something in a simple manner. Employee has, let's say, ID, name, and salary. And while hiring, I want to initialize employees' ID, name, and salary. How will you do this? I mean, what will you provide for initializing data members? Simple question, simple answer. Parameterized constructor, nothing else. You got me? So, now come back to Enterprise Java, Advanced Java, and tell me, if I want to parameterize my servlet, if I want to pass the initialization time parameters, you know, initial parameters are, initialization time, like constructor. Can I write the parameterized constructor to the servlet? All these are popular questions. Answer is, if you write only parameterized constructor, tell me, is default constructor supplied or not supplied? Not supplied, and you'll definitely get an instantiation exception. In simple English, which is the only constructor a web container can call? Default or parameterized? Default. Okay. So see, I'm explaining case by case. Case 1, you don't add a constructor, everything works happily. But what is the disadvantage? I cannot pass any parameters. So keep it that. Case 2, I just add, you can try this all in the lab session. I just add a single parameterized constructor. What will happen? Instantiation exception. Container doesn't find the default constructor, throws you off. Case 3, I add the default constructor also and a parameterized constructor also. Tell me what will happen. Runtime error or no error? I mean, any error or no error? Answer is no error. But which constructor will get called at the end of the day? Default or parameterized? Default. So guys, these are all the typical questions. So is there any way you can write a parameterized constructor and make it useful? Answer is no way. Understood me so far? Understood or not understood? The parameterized constructor, if you add in addition to default constructor, is all useless. So half of you, or maybe 100% of you, 225 of you will be wondering which parameter she's talking about, or which parameterization is she talking about. So suspend this and let's have a use case. Without use case, without real life example, practical example, it is all like false flat. So here, a question. This is a continuation with the servlet life cycle. Don't worry, I'm going to come back to it in a minute. So we have developed the entire case study yesterday, CMS. Or today what we took out is a small part of it. So tell me, is that web application which we have been writing for the last 4 days, is it database independent or is it database specific? Don't answer loosely. Think for a minute and then answer. whatever the way we have written so far, is it database specific or database independent? So you are saying specific. I'm going to ask you either way. Tell me, what do you what do you mean by it? So let me spell out for you. If I change the database from MySQL to, let's say, Oracle to, let's say, HSQL or Postgres, what is it I'll have to change? Very good. I was afraid. Akshata is absolutely right. On spot. Jar is fine. Guys, jar is of course there. SQL queries also may change. But currently, the main thing I'm talking about is DB utils. So please open. You should always relate it to things. Server, stop the server since we are discussing for a bit. So please open. I'm going to copy day 6.2 into 6.3 maybe. But anyway, don't worry. Don't let that worry you. Or maybe the CMS whole. Tell me, will this method change or no change when I change the database from MySQL to Oracle? Simple question, simple answer. 100% change. See guys, don't get confused. I told you, JDBC is anyway partially database independent, but I did not mean that. What I meant was the queries, if they are changing, then you'll have to change your down layer. But on the top of that, my web application is not even partially database independent. Understood me or lost? Again, simple statements I'm making. You will have to make the changes in the code. So how can you say it is database independent? Okay. So what is it which we were, okay, let me rephrase it. What is it that will change? Clue is all here. When I replace one database to another database. Anyone wants to tell me? What will change? Only URL. URL is right. Only URL. No, no, no. I don't want line numbers this time for a change, Sumit. Give me the actual this. Okay, which are the I don't want to give the number. What are the things? Guys, 3 things will change. Database contacting URL, username, and password. Agreed? You're off track. Those who are saying jar and implementation classes, you are completely off track. I'm talking about the code related changes. So why you're talking about jar? Of course, I'll have to change the jar. When I go from one database to that, I'm not talking about that, guys. Come on track. I'm talking about the code changes. So which 3 things I'll have to change, or which 3 things are like database specific? Tell me, which will change from database to database? 3 things. The database contacting URL, username, and password. In some cases, you have to call that class.forName, and that driver class also will change. Currently, we don't require it because I have given you sufficiently latest driver. Agreed? So now the next level question. Are we hard coding these whatever details here, or are we parameterizing it? Hard coding or not? Of course, we are hard coding. Everyone agreed? So now let me come back to the point. The whole thing is a point. Has a point. So if my servlet could allow me the parameterized constructor, what I would have passed to make it at least partially database independent? What is it I have passed as 3 arguments to the constructor? DB URL, username, or password. But that option is out of window. That option is not there. So now I'm showing you another option. Enter servlet configuration. Enter servlet config. Okay, so let me say the earlier part. Servlet. If you want to pass the initialization time, init time parameters to the servlet, can we use a parameterized constructor? Not possible. But is there any other solution given to me by the web container or whatever servlet APIs? 100% yes. So listen to this very carefully. Earlier I used to say, because that is what was the initial knowledge. After instantiation, I was telling you, your container calls the init method because I was waiting for this time. Does not happen that way. There is a in-between step. So after the constructor and before init, what is it your container is going to do? And that is what is the answer here. So your container is going to create javax.servlet.servlet config. That's an interface implementation class in the Catalina jar. So it is going to create a servlet config object. All J2E data structures, as I had told you long back, are nothing but internally arranged as the map. So I'll talk about that, what map and all little later. So think of a servlet config object initially as an empty map, and then your container will check, have you added any init parameters? How to add all is a detail. So container will check, have you added to this servlet any initialization time or init time parameters? Answer can be yes or no. So if I want to parameterize the servlet, are we going to pass any init parameters? It's a small question, yes or no. I'll repeat it. I said, if you want to parameterize the servlet, are you going to pass any init parameters? 100% yes. How? In a minute, I'll tell you. So what will container do is, you just pass those init parameters, db URL, username, password as a one use case, and container will add it in the servlet config object. And this is the step which is called as dependency injection. But all these terms, dependency injection, which is the dependent object, what is the dependency? We will start talking about it with the Spring framework. That time I'll remind you, this was nothing but an example of a DI, dependency injection. So let that word go. Now, after the servlet config object is created, which is the first lifecycle method container calls? That answer you already know, init method. There are two init methods, one init with a servlet config, the other one which we have been using init. Either way you use, what is it that your container will pass to this init method? It will internally pass the servlet config object. So it's like, don't make it complex, because it is not complex, but it is interesting. So take it from the top. Suppose you are starting with in an eager manner by mentioning load on startup. So container will start the life cycle right at the application deployment time. So what are the three things your container does? Locates the class from a folder, locate, load, instantiate. So at the end of this, your servlet class is loaded, your instance is created. Will it directly call the init method, or will it do something in between? Of course, it does something in between, and that is nothing but servlet config object is created in an empty manner. And if you have supplied any init parameters, those initialization parameters will be added to it. And such a either empty in case of no parameters or populated in case of parameter, such a servlet config object will be internally passed to the init method. Means what? I as a servlet, I can access the servlet config object from, your choices are, first choice, default constructor. Second choice, init method. Third choice, both of above. Fourth choice, none of above. Are you understanding? All these are famous questions, guys, popular questions. Of course, init method onwards. You cannot access the servlet config object. Don't trust a letter of what I'm saying. I'm going to prove it. We're going to prove it, SOPing and all that. If you try to access the servlet config object from here, all you'll get is null, because container has not created any object yet. So this is where the object is created, and like you answered, 100% you'll be able to access it from the init method. Okay, so this is that additional part, servlet config, and then the init method is done. So this completes the initialization sequence, and then if the init method has been succeeded, I mean, if there are no servlet exceptions thrown, then the container can continue to servicing. But suppose if you have not supplied, if you have kept the load on startup default, which is -1, will this init sequence change or no change? Any of these steps will change or no change? Tell me. I said, if your container is working in a lazy manner, the steps which I mentioned, locate, load, instantiate, servlet object, servlet config object, and init method, will this initialization sequence change or no change? Simple question, guys. Not getting the answer. I mean, I think the problem is again with English. Answer is zero change. Only thing is, when it will get called, that will change. So when was it getting called init sequence A? At the deployment time. The same initialization sequence will get called when? After the first request. I don't know why you answered it solid or whatever I mean. Anyway, so now I'll send you a readme regarding servlet config. So you can have the copy, so you can keep it open and read it parallelly. All these are famous, popular questions. So here, start reading. When you say servlet config, what is it? It is a, read this. Actually, you can read till this much. I've already said all this, all W questions and everything. Read that. I'll explain. Let's start reading it together. What is servlet config? As the name, it is a servlet specific configuration created by your servlet container to pass some parameters, to pass some information during the initialization. So which is the interface we are talking about? javax.servlet.servletconfig. Interfaces cannot be instantiated. So the implementation classes are given by server, and the Tomcat specific jar is Catalina. So now understand the W questions: who, when, what, etc. So who is going to create this instance of the servlet config? Programmer or web container? I've said it multiple times, web container. When question is very important. So when? After the constructor and before init. In between. And I'm telling you once again, this is what is the perfect example of a dependency injection. So what is a dependency injection? What is that inversion of control? All later in Spring. What is the use case? The use case is, if you want to have any servlet specific initialization parameters, you can always store it in a, you can always store it in a servlet config. So I have a simple number-based question. Suppose in my case study, suppose there are, I've not counted 5, I think 5. Suppose there are 5 servlets in our content management system, some number, and those 5 servlet instances are sitting in the heap. Can anyone tell me how many servlet config objects would be there in the heap? I'll repeat my numbers again. If there are 5 servlet instances, how many servlet config objects? You're absolutely right. 1 per servlet. Because the servlet config object corresponds to servlet instance, servlet specific information. So it has, oh, okay, let me rephrase let me ask you another question. Suppose you have S1, S2, S3, S4, S5. So can S1's init parameters be accessible to, can they be accessed by S2, S3, S4, S5? Answer is right in front of you. Absolutely not. So why? Because it represents something like a private data, a data meant for a current servlet. So if you need some global data, some parameters which have to be shared across all the web pages from the same web application, will you use this servlet config init parameters? It's a yes or no. If I want global parameters, no. So that is when I'll explain servlet context. See the word config and context sound similar. but they are totally poles apart. So servlet config represents corresponding servlet specific information. And when you say context, context is equal to entire web application. So little later, I'll show you servlet context interface. And if you add the context parameters, will they be accessible only to one page in the entire web application, or will they be accessible to all the web pages? Specific page or all? Entire page is not, entire web application is what you meant, I guess. Okay, so focus on one thing at a point. So next question, how do I add these initialization parameters? Same answers. Either you can do it in web.xml or you can do it with a annotation. So here, this is your XML way. So you know the servlet tags. So here, you know servlet name, servlet class, you can have load on startup. In addition to that, which is the tag we have added? Init-param. Can I change the sequence? Absolutely not. It is all predefined by J2EE specifications. So here you can have the parameter name and here you can have the parameter value. Okay. And the servlet mapping remains the same. But can I do the same thing using annotation? 100% yes. See how? Open your Java docs. J2EE docs, I mean Java 8 docs. Index page. Look for Control F, web servlet. Look for that web servlet annotation. Which are the attributes you have seen so far? You have seen value, URL patterns, load on startup. There is a one called as init parameters. Control F. The name of the annotation, attribute is init parameter. So init params. So init params, what is it having? It is having the array of web init parameters. And when you click on it, it is another annotation @ web init parameter, which has name and a value. So come to the point. Let me come to the point. Here, I can either add the init parameters using XML way as well as using your not as well as, or your annotation way. So think hard and answer. In such a case, when you want to develop database independent servlet, which should not affect any changes in the code, which approach you will prefer? Annotation approach or XML approach? I'm waiting for the answers. I just got one answer. 100% XML. If you say annotation, where will that annotation be? Look at it. Think before you answer. Where will be that annotation? Web servlet. Here, comma, you'll say init params and you'll start adding. But tomorrow I want to change the database, DB URL or whatever username and password. What is it I'll have to change? XML configuration file or Java code? Quickly. Of course, Java code. So is it becoming database independent or database specific? Of course, database specific. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So whenever you have init parameters, typically, I'm saying typically, we don't use annotation. We use the XML approach. Understood what I'm saying? So this is what we are going to do in the next whatever time. So we are going to, you have this file. And anyway, you can copy the tags and we'll make this. But I'm not yet, the discussion is not yet over. So this was how you add it. But now, how will you retrieve it is also important. So how to access these init parameters, servlet specific configuration parameters from a servlet? Extremely easy. You override your init method. We have already done it. Now, where are these init parameters stored? In the servlet config object. So there is a servlet interface everyone knows. I had discussed the three methods, init, service, destroy. There is the fourth method, get servlet config, which returns you the servlet config instance. And once you have that servlet config, which is the method to call for getting the values of the init parameters, the method name is, For request, it was request.get parameter. Here it is config.get init parameter. What goes in is the key parameter name. So when I say parameter, what is it? String comma string as a name comma value, or is it string comma object? I said this in the morning. String comma string, s comma s or s comma o. S comma s. See this string parameter name, string value. Are they going to be read only? 100% yes. Means what? Once you add them here, you are not going to modify. There's no API such as set init parameter. And the moment I bring in the read only part, what is it that comes along with it? Thread safety, I mean thread safe or thread unsafe? 100% thread safe. So no synchronization, nothing required here. So this is what we are going to try. We'll start discussion on it. I don't think we'll be able to complete it, but we'll at least we'll get started. All clear what I'm talking about? I'm showing you I'm showing you this. I think I've written it. I'll share this also with you. So start answering the questions. Is the current web application database specific? 100% yes. So which part I'm talking about? DB utils. So this DB utils, we are going to parameterize it. Okay. So questions and answer are all written here. How to make it at least partially database independent? See, I can't control the queries. The queries are going to change sometimes from database to database. So to enjoy 100% database independence, you'll have to wait for Hibernate. But in between, at least let me help you. So now, just look at the steps, the development steps, and we'll develop it together. And I'll share this with you. So first is, we will edit the web.txt. We'll make a copy of your CMS yesterday what we developed, and we will add the 3 initialization parameters. So which initialization parameters? Database URL, username and password. There will be a small change. Such things I generally give out ready-made. See here. Can you see here ampersand? So if you add the ampersand as it is, your DB URL will not be processed correctly. So this ampersand, we are just replacing it by HTML entity, XML entities basically. So I am giving you that ready-made. So that and is replaced by the entity, that HTML entity, and ampersand, and the public key retrieval. This part is the same. Now, these parameters are going to be injected in the authentication servlet. That is your login servlet. So we will read the parameters properly from servlet config, get init parameter and all that. And then we will pass these parameters to DB utils, and we'll have to make some changes. So let me share with you this sequence. So you can copy some things from there directly. Unless until you finish it, you do it, you are not going to get the feel of it. So let us just barely get started looking at time. Let's finish whatever steps we can do. So let me give you the instructions. Stop the server is the first one. Yeah, my server is already stopped. You should not do any development. What is it I did here? I have to make this. Just a second. Yeah. So, okay. So I'll start giving the instructions. Had I uploaded day 5 lab CMS? Do you have that? Just check. I forgot. Did I do it? Upload it in the Google Drive? I can check. I have uploaded. Great. So I don't have to check. Thanks for answering. So this was the one. What was the change we had made here? Yeah, update visits. You remember we had that problem, update visits. So that now is fixed here. Okay. So now make a copy. This is the final copy. I don't have an admin role here. That is your assignment. So Control C, Control V. Let's have it as day 6.3. Okay. And the first thing you do is edit the context rule. Day 6.3. Tell me when you are done. Copy. Day 5 lab CMS, because then we will be on the same lines. I mean, same page. Done that? Just a copy. You can take your own project and copy it, whatever, if you have been developing CMS. Okay. Now, open this and I'll give you step-by-step instructions. Open your login servlet. Reach here. We are going to parameterize this servlet. So the moment I say I want to parameterize this servlet, which is the better way of supplying init parameters, XML or annotation? I've already explained. XML way. Okay. So remove this. If you want to, you can just, comment it, remove it, whatever, but don't keep it there. So what is the alternative of deployment instructions? XML tags. Okay. So just remove this and we will add it. Don't make the spelling mistakes of authenticate and all that. So now everyone knows this much basic. Go to src main web app webinf web.xml. Just confirm that you are in the right project. So day 6.3, you can change the display name to it's been copied. Okay. Now I would say don't waste time. Copy the tags. Otherwise, it will take a lot of time for you to fill it up. So here, somebody had made a mistake. You cannot nest it wrongly. Guys, this one tag is one complete tag. So how can you add it in between? So after that, you add a comment, servlet deployment tags. Be little careful and understand it. Don't do things blindly. And here you paste it. You can say Control-Shift-F. Done this much? Copied the basic stubs. I mean, we are going to modify it, of course. Done or not? You just copy it from that servlet config readme. Let me know when you have copied. Under the closing of welcome file list, give the comment servlet deployment tags. That is your login servlet deployment tags and this. Okay. Always start in the bottoms up manner. Which URL pattern? You have to match it with the form. So authenticate. Spelling is correct? Yeah. Servlet name can be anything, It can be init, it can be ABC, it can be anything. So let that be. Now, here you have a servlet name. Change the servlet class. Pages dot login servlet. Fine. Okay. And I think after this, let me just check. I'll give you a minute. Is there any red cross? No. I was just taking the order. So after that init parameter, before the closing, load on startup you add. Because I want that servlet to be loaded right at the application deployment time. I'll share all these tags with you in a minute once we complete it. So now tell me, how many such init param tags you want to add for this requirement? How many such tags you want to add? Quickly. I want a number. Nobody? 2 is a wrong answer. 3 is a correct answer. Which 3 initialization parameters we decided? DB URL, username and a password. Okay. So now editing all of that. So parameter name can be anything, your choice. For example, I say DB URL. But the value has to be correct. And all you have to change is, I told you already. So where is that? Okay, take it from the sequence. Don't waste your time. Only thing you have to change is ampersand by the entity, HTML entity. So pick it up properly. Web.xml and the value you edit. No extra white spaces, please. White spaces in general can kill you. I mean, leading, trailing, nothing. So JDBC, MySQL, localhost, etc. Use SSL false, ampersand. Yes. Oh, true, I did not get. Got it so far? Now, which is the next one you're going to add is the username and a password. So keep making the copies. So you can give any init parameter name, suppose username, and you know your own username passwords. So in my case, it is root. Okay, finish this. So, okay, I was supposed to give you all this. Wait a second. Have I done it properly? Servlet class, 3 initialization parameters, and load on startup and servlet. Looks fine. So, there are the tags. Yeah, thanks, Prashant. Are we done? Have you completed these adding these 3 parameters in the web.xml? Those who are trying along. Others, have they understood it? Can I continue? Okay. So now we have configured the servlet. Now open the DB utils. Open it in the from the package, I mean day 6.3. So open the DB utils and answer the obvious question. Are we going to hard code it like this here, or are we going to parameterize it? I mean, are we going to hard code it here, or are we going to pass it as the parameters? Everyone understands it. But now, if you so don't do anything. I'm just telling you step by step. If I use the same method as open connection and parameterize it here, okay, which how many parameters I'll pass? Obvious question. How many? Quickly, 3. But if you see, I'm calling this open connection from all the down layers. So are you seeing so much of change, so many changes, so much of code base change? So everywhere the DAO I'll have to pass 3 parameters and the DAO constructor I'll have to pass 3 parameters. So let us do the better. I mean, this is all code refactoring, nothing else. So I'll give you the instructions, follow them closely. So I can have different ways. I'm just thinking of something. Yeah, get connection. Okay. So here, right click on it. Let me say this is ID tricks. So right click on this open connection. Can you see the option here, refactor and rename? So this will do the refactoring across the entire project without you hunting. That is why people come to ID, right? So let's call it as, that is not giving me options. Open the rename dialog. Yeah, so I'm renaming the method to get connection. You will understand it in the next minute and then we'll stop. So just call that open connection to get connection. Okay. So it is looking for all this. So I have just renamed open connection to get connection, and whoever were the dependencies. Which were the dependencies? Where is that? Where is that down layer? Yeah. So just check quickly. Topic DAO implementation, get connection. Tutorial DAO implementation, get connection, and all this. So check. Is the refactoring done properly? You did not get it, this one? Okay, here. Right click on the method, refactor, rename. That's it. And give the new name as get connection. You'll understand the point. Refactor, rename. Done. I'm just trying to make your changes easy, nothing else. Done or not? Let me know so I can continue and we can take a break. Okay. So now make a copy of this into open connection. We want to open connection. You will get the whole field in a minute. Okay. And here, remove all of this and simply return. It's like treated as like a getter. Okay. I'm just separating two things. Get connection simply returns the connection. And now you tell me, apply your this. I don't require this same singletoning business, but I'm achieving it using two methods. So make little bit of changes. Oh, why it is having a problem here? Oh, I have not returned this. Okay, so I can say complex. Just a second. Do I require to return it? No, I can make it as void. Give me a second. I'm thinking parallelly. Do I need to return this connection? No, I've got a getter separately. So change this. I'll wait. So separate the getting the connection part and opening the connection part into two methods. And which is the method your DAO layer is calling? Get connection or open connection? Tell me. Get connection method. Okay. Now tell me which method between get connection and open connection has to be parameterized. GC for get connection, OC for open connection. Which is going to have those parameters? Of course, open connection. Are you understanding? All I'm doing is refactoring, guys, separating. So now pass three arguments: string URL, string username, and string password. Okay. And naturally, no more hard coding, please. And all you have is URL, username, look at this. I am messing it up again. Look at my focus today. Horrible focus today. I made a mistake. Okay, so URL, username. I'm saying this and doing something else. That's why I said password. Okay, are we good? So take a look at this refactored code. We have not done anything major. Only thing what I've done is in open connection itself, I was checking if connection is equal to null, then create the connection instance. Otherwise, return the existing one. So that open connection I've split into two. One which actually opens the database connection by talking to your driver manager, and this one will call the. I mean this is just a getter. So do let me know when you complete. Rajiv, code is in front of you. So take a look at it. You have anyway a break coming up. So just take it as it is. I've just split open Rajiv, the one method into two. So it's a core Java kind of a code. So I really don't expect you to feel confused. So here, open connection split into two parts. One is actually opening the connection. One is that. Did you manage that refactoring or are you confused in the refactor? You let it pass. Have I finished it from my side, Rajiv? Wait, hold on. Don't be hyper. All I have done is done the changes so that your minimum changes and no changes, zero changes in the DAO layer will be required. You'll understand it after, before I finish. So now are the two methods totally decoupled? So let me ask you a question. Rajiv, I'll ask you the question. If I call open, not just Rajiv, it's nothing like that. If I call open connection method, let's say 10 times, how many database connections I'll end up getting? 1 or 10? Answer properly. Please don't give me wrong answer. Wrong answer. Guys, you are not allowing your thinking. You are just blindly answering. If I call open connection, that was earlier story when I check null or not. Here, am I making any checks? 100 times, I mean, all the time I'm saying driver manager dot get connection. So let me rephrase. If I call driver manager dot get connection 10 times, will it give me the same single connection or 10 different connections? Of course, run different connections. Then why you're giving me such a wrong answer, which is a very easy part of core Java, nothing to do with web Java. So how many times should I be calling open connection? 1 time or 10 times to achieve the singleton? 1 time. Which is the method in the life of a servlet which gets called exactly once? Init method. So from the init method, which method are you going to call, Rajiv? This time it is question for you because you said you are confused. Which method you think will you call from the init method? Your choices are GC or OC. OC. And which method we are going to call, or we have already called from dow layer, GC or OC? Are you understanding it now? Are you clearer now, Rajiv? Anyway, you have a 1 hour break to think over it. Don't worry. I mean, not just Rajiv, he just asked me a question. Anyone who's confused. So I have separated the concern. Open connection will be called by the servlet. Servlet will be having those, 3 initialization parameters injected with servlet config, and we just separated it. This was the minimum damage. Minimum damage means minimum changes done. Okay, so this is what we have written. Now open that login servlet. And in the login servlet, here, open login servlet. And before you can create the DAO instantiation, okay, let me ask you, because people seem to be confused. If I do it like this, okay, press the code. I am not modifying anything. I said I will call, but suppose I don't call. So control click on it. And now tell me, if I continue in this manner, what will happen? If I continue in this manner, what will happen? Yes, please. Of course, you'll start getting NPE, null pointer exception, because you have not called the open connection at all. So you are directly calling get connection, and that connection value by default is null. So now do the reverse thinking and tell me, what is it I should call before creating DAO instances? Open connection. Is it making sense now? I told you, give me time. Before I finish, you'll 100% get it. Everyone will get it. So now, either you can use your import static, or you can directly call it dbutils dot open connection. But now I have a problem. Is open connection method parameterized or parameterless? It is parameterized. Which 3 parameters we need to pass? We have to pass a URL, a username, and a password. I'm doing exact reverse engineering, complete reverse engineering. But I don't have URL, name, and password. So can anyone tell me how to get this URL, name, and password? So you will have to call, answer is completely right. I'll have to get the servlet config object, which is the method for getting the servlet config object, get servlet config, and then we'll have to call get init parameter. Okay, so let's do that and then take a break. So I'll say, I'll write it in this thing, steps, get servlet config. Who has created this servlet config object? Programmer or web container? PRWC, web container. When? Before init or after init? Before init. Before default constructor or after default constructor? After default constructor. So we'll add a constructor also. So get servlet config. So finish it fast, looking at the time. Servlet config, some variable name, get servlet config. This is the method which is coming from, implemented by generic servlet, declared in servlet interface. And once I do that, actually I don't have to do this. I mean, okay, I can do it in one line. You don't waste time. So you already told me. So config dot get init parameter. Please don't waste time by making spelling mistakes. Go to this web.xml and pick up the parameter name. I hope you are understanding what has to match with what. Just a init parameter name. The next one, please. So what is the other name? User underscore name. I don't know what names you have kept. You have to match your own names here. Okay. And then you have the third one, initialization parameters. And the third one was password. So let me check. I think we are done, but let's confirm. So I have got the servlet config. I have called that parameterized method dbutils get connection and all that. Okay, one more thing, guys. Once you add more and more traces, you understand. I'll just say init and print the config. And 100% it will be not null. Add the to convince yourself. All this checking we'll do after we resume. You can, of course, do it in the break if you want, but I'm not wasting your, I'm not dealing it further. Add a default constructor, add a SOP here in default constructor and print the config object here. Oh, sorry. Okay. So what is the expected value here? What is the expected output here? Null or not null in the constructor? What is the expected output? 100% null. Because this dependency, which dependency? Servlet is dependent upon servlet config. So this dependency is going to be supplied, injected, made available by the web container, but not during instantiation, but during initialization. So here, of course, that is what is the proof of concept. And here when you print it, do you expect to see null or not null in the init method? 100% not null. So all of that and much more, we will decide. All we have to do is test. Okay. So I'll create a zip. Hopefully I have not made any changes. So now I have a small question before I share a zip with you. Your usernames, password are different than mine. So if you are not done anything and you are just going to take my zip and make changes, what will you change? dbutils or web.xml? Where we'll have to make changes? Of course, we have externalized all the changes. So tomorrow, if I shift from MySQL to Oracle, will any Java code, of course, SQL queries might change, but will any other than that Java code, will it get affected? Zero changes. So this is what was the exercise for achieving two things. To show you how to write database independent, because before Hibernate, these are the things. With Hibernate, things become easy. Cool. So before that, how to write it, and mainly the concept of servlet config. So having said this, let me make a zip and we'll take a break here. Day 6.3. So please make the changes. If you are copying this zip and extracting it in your workspace, make the changes in web.xml as per your username and password. And if we have not made any mistakes, which hopefully we haven't, it should all work. The database part should all work right, fine. Other than that, I have not changed anything else. I've shared currently the day 6. This other folders will be shared after in the lunch break. Okay, so focus on day 6.3 zip and take a look at it. You want others also? Okay, I'll wait. It will take extra. Time. Anyway, you get it. So 6.3 is the one which has init and all that. But somebody wanted all. You should be typing along then. You should be definitely coding along by now. Okay, so I've shared all 6.1, 6.2, 6.3. So 6.3 is for those this thing, initialization parameters. You're welcome, Abhijit. And this thing also, all that debutils related changes. So let's have a 1 hour break and will resume at 11:20. So be in time. I'll also be in time.